Hi, I'm Dr. Antonio Graceffo, and welcome to China Economic Research, coming to you from Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. Today's episode, China's Foreign Influence Operations. Now, in previous videos, I have discussed how China exports its censorship abroad, bullying foreign academia, educational institutions, and think tanks to self-censor and or to promote a pro-Beijing agenda. Beijing also harnesses the power of its own state-run media, academic institutions, and think tanks to increase its foreign influence. Much of their infiltration in foreign governments is simply to establish relationships or dependencies with internal power brokers who can champion pro-Beijing legislation in foreign countries. And this is all in spite of China's much repeated policy of non-interference in the domestic affairs of other countries. At the UN, Beijing has actually vetoed intervention in genocide, calling it a strictly internal affair, and seeing a UN intervention as an infringement on other countries' sovereignty. The U.S. Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act of 2019 regarding the Muslim concentration camps in Xinjiang and the UN's demand to tour these camps, Beijing sees as an infringement on sovereignty and meddling in internal affairs, which the Chinese government have called a malicious attack on China and demanded that the United States not allow it to become a law, warning that China would act to defend its interests as necessary. Meanwhile, Beijing sponsors Unit 61398 of the People's Liberation Army, whose 100,000 soldiers have the sole purpose of committing data hacking, so the Communist Party can build massive databases on U.S. civilians, scientists, and military personnel. Among other reasons, the database was built in order to see who might be friendly to a pro-Chinese agenda or who could be bought and with what. Some of the largest data hacks in history have been linked to the Chinese government. In 2015, American health insurer Anthem was hacked, and the personal records of nearly 80 million Americans were compromised. And China is the primary suspect. In that same year, the U.S. government, USG, Office of Personnel Management, OPM, was hacked and 21.5 million records were stolen, including confidential background checks. Information specifically targeted included names, social security numbers, dates, and places of birth, and address. Through its bilateral and multilateral agreements, China partners with totalitarian states such as Russia, North Korea, and the Central Asian republics. Part of the U.S. engagement with relatively newly independent nations is to help them improve the quality of their democracy. A report from the International Republican Institute examines the malign effects of China's economic influence and manipulation of the information space worldwide. IRI found that through a combination of technology, economics, and control of information, the CCP makes developing countries dependent on them and undermines the development of democratic institutions in many developing countries. Another tool of influence in Beijing's arsenal is the Thousand Talents Plan. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, China's Thousand Talents Plan is designed to attract, recruit, and cultivate high-level scientific talent in furtherance of China's scientific development, economic prosperity, and national security. Effectively, the program attempts to recruit world-class experts in various fields and pays them to share their knowledge with China, including spying, espionage, IP theft, and other illegal transfers of non-public information. The FBI has described China's Thousand Talents as a non-traditional espionage program. They went on to say that it poses a threat to national security in every region of the United States and at every level. On January 28, 2020, the U.S. Justice Department announced that Dr. Charles Lieber, 60, chair of the Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology at Harvard University, was arrested and charged for making false, fictitious, and fraudulent statements. At the same time, Yan Qingye, a 29-year-old Chinese national, was charged in an indictment with one count each of visa fraud, making false statements, acting as an agent of a foreign government, and conspiracy. Additionally, Zhao Songjung, a 30-year-old Chinese national, was arrested on December 10, 2019 at Boston's Logan International Airport and charged with attempting to smuggle 21 vials of biological research to China. Zheng was indicted on one count of smuggling goods from the United States and one count of making false, fictitious, and fraudulent statements. The Justice Department explained that since 2008, Dr. Lieber had served as the principal investigator of the Lieber Research Group at Harvard University, which specialized in nanoscience. He had received more than $15 million in grant funding from the National Institute of Health and the Department of Defense, both of which required him to disclose foreign financial conflicts of interest, including financial support from foreign governments or foreign entities. In 2011, Lieber became a strategic scientist at Wuhan University of Technology in China, a relationship which he failed to disclose to Harvard University or the U.S. government. He was also a participant in China's Thousand Talents plan from around 2012 to 2017, which he again failed to disclose. Lieber's 3-year contract at Wuhan University of Technology paid him a salary of $50,000 per month and living expenses of up to $158,000. They also awarded him more than $1.5 million to establish a research lab at Wuhan University of Technology. In exchange, Lieber was obliged to declare international cooperation projects, cultivate young teachers and PhD students, organize international conferences, apply for patents, and publish articles in the name of Wuhan University of Technology. As an academic, this is one point I would like to raise when people claim that the U.S. is losing the technology race or that China is filing more patents or doing more academic publishing than the U.S. Many of those patents and those papers are done by U.S. and other foreign nationals through programs like Thousand Talents. And much of the data and intellectual property contained in those papers is stolen, and much of it's stolen from the United States. If the U.S. steps up its enforcement of intellectual property theft as well as academic freedom and more closely scrutinizes China's involvement in our campuses, I think we will see a sharp decline in scientific advancements attributed to China. One of the other people charged with espionage, Yanqing Ye, it turns out, is a lieutenant of the People's Liberation Army, the PLA, the Armed Forces of the People's Republic of China, and a member of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. But on her visa application, she identified herself as a student and lied about her ongoing military service at the National University of Defense Technology, a top military academy directed by the CCP. The Justice Department alleges that while studying at Boston University's Department of Physics, Chemistry, and Biomedical Engineering from October 2017 to April 2019, Ye continued to work as a PLA lieutenant, completing numerous assignments from PLA officers, such as conducting research, assessing U.S. military websites, and sending U.S. documents and information to China. A court-ordered investigation determined that Ye was in direct contact with a National University of Defense Technology professor who was a colonel in the People's Liberation. Under the colonel's instructions, she had accessed U.S. military websites, researched U.S. military projects, and compiled information for the PLA on 2 U.S. scientists with expertise in robotics and computer science.